And we're live.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Live Reality Games, the podcast where we talk about the games that are live. I am Parker Barnett, and as always, with me is my great co host, Nathan Barnett. Nathan, how are you doing?
As always,
As
Nathan
always.
Barnett. All
Have you not
two
been Nathan
times so
before?
far. Exactly. We have like a 100% track record at this point.
Yeah. I make sure you've always been Nathan. As far as I understand, you're right. We do have a
Exactly.
100% track record. Um, Nathan, you said last week or 2 weeks ago when we were with Jason, the host, that you had not interacted with anybody socially except for that podcast. It's been 2 weeks. Have you interacted with anybody since then?
I've interacted with the computer screen a lot. I've been doing a lot of finals. I've written a lot of papers.
Yep.
I've been animating things. So, I mean, that's basically the same thing.
You did interact with something.
Yeah, exactly.
Excellent. I had to get the update. The people were clamoring. So,
Of course.
so obviously, everybody, last week was Thanksgiving. For those who celebrate, hope everyone had a great Thanksgiving. We have 2 episodes to cover tonight, technically three, because the first episode was a two-parter, and then we'll talk about episode two. So tonight we're gonna have 2 episodes overall to talk about. So yeah, I'm excited. What just overall, Nathan? What did you think of the first episode?
I thought one thing I like about just LRGs in general
Mhm.
is that you get people who you wouldn't see on these shows otherwise.
Right.
So I thought there was a lot of interesting personalities on there. I know that's an incredibly generic take, but and we'll get into it more, but I also wasn't fully aware of how like the camp setup was. I didn't know they were in a cabin. I
Oh,
didn't know
right.
there would be pepperoni. Uh So, and I actually found the way the vote went pretty interesting.
Hmm.
Normally, first votes aren't that engaging,
Right.
but this was pretty interesting. What do you think?
No, you pretty much hit on the head there. I thought, like you said, there was definitely a lot to cover. So it's probably good it was two parts. We got to meet the characters, and like you said, there were definitely some personalities who I think just you don't typically see on CBS Survivor. So I enjoyed that aspect. And like you said, and we'll talk about it, the vote wasn't as straightforward as most votes typically are. There was definitely a lot of names thrown out and some different strategies going on. So I'm very excited. And there was pepperoni. So
Exactly.
so we get started with the episode, and of course we do what most, if not all, LRGs do. We see the meet and greet, everybody talking and meeting up, where everybody pretends to care about everybody's backstories when they're really just spending the time sizing people up. And then we see the two tribes form, and the first the first thing that really stuck out to me about the episode was, we hear from Brett, who is on the purple team, and I'm sorry, guys. I'm not good with tribe names. I will get there
It's
as we
Malik.
do this. Matic, thank you. As we
Malik.
get Malik,
Malik.
I'm already failing. As we get through the episodes, I will remember. This is how I am on the real show too. Anybody who watches CBS Survivor with me knows that. But we hear Brad, and he talks about everybody who he formed a relationship with at the meet and greet is actually on the other team. And what I thought was funny about that was Nathan. Correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't there like one person in most LRGs where that always happens to, where they just happen to form the relationships with the exact wrong people?
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's pretty much guaranteed to be one of these like stronger guys too. It's almost comedic how like that happens every single time. It's funnier though when it happens to people who are like, yeah, I played a million orgs. I played this org in this game, but all my org friends are on the other team, so that's kind of lame.
Right. As far as I'm aware, Brett has not played a lot of orgs. Maybe he's played some, but it is funny. And of course, as we see later on, it doesn't even have an effect on Brett. He's in a good spot by the end of the 2 episodes. But I did think that was a funny thing to note.
They
Um,
needed his raw brute strength for Battleship.
they did, didn't they? And hey, in their defense, they knew Battleship was coming up
They did.
because Jason told them to work on that, and they're like, Brett. That's our guy. So of course we hear a little bit from the players. We see that Chelsea says she wants to form a 3 with Amy and Jared on the Basra tribe. Is that how it's said?
Yeah, I'm going with Basra here.
Basra, the green
By the way,
team,
don't look up like the origin stories of this, because according to Britannica, it's a capital in southeastern Iraq, and I have a feeling that's not what the tribe is named after.
you just have a feeling.
Granted, I wasn't there. I don't feel like when they were naming these tribes, like, oh, that province in Iraq, we got it.
So what you're saying is our good buddy Jason was not pulling from provinces in Iraq for these tribe names.
Maybe that's a missed market.
We need Jason on the podcast again just to ask him. So obviously we see, and this actually happens later on the episode, but one thing that I thought was funny was the juxtaposition between how Chelsea and Jared feel about this alliance, because you see Jared talking about, man, I would love it if Amy and Chelsea didn't so obviously walk off in front of the whole tribe. And then you cut to Chelsea saying, this is a great alliance. I don't think anybody's on to us so far. So I love the juxtaposition there. What did you think about that?
The whole green team is so weird. I think it's because we haven't really seen how their dynamic has shifted or anything.
Right.
But I'm just having a really hard time understanding what's even happening there. Because on the one hand, we get it in episode 2 where there's like a solid 5 or what have you.
Right.
Because half the team decided to just sleep immediately, which is weird.
I mean, is that not the, like, if you're on the winning team, I'm not surprised that there's at least 1 or 2 people who are like, hey, let's sleep away. I think we've seen that. Anybody who's seen LRG before knows that sometimes people sleep a little too much, get a little comfortable when your team is winning. But over half the team is doing this strategy. That is new to me. I don't think I've seen that before.
No, I don't think so either.
And it's working for them. They needed that. The sleep they're getting is helping them. And again, we'll talk about it in a sec, but they have cabins. So I would hope they're sleeping well.
Yeah,
So we get to the first reward challenge, and it's a pretty interesting one, I would say. We get to have a reward auction where the tribes compete to win money, to bid items, that they can take back to camp with them. And Nathan, from what I understand, you actually have written down every auction item that was in this challenge.
Okay, so yeah, I was thinking we could go through these auction items. For most of them, I have how much they went for as well.
Oh, wonderful.
Some of them it was a little unclear, so feel free to correct me. But we can go through these. We'll rate these on like a scale of like 1 to 10 or something, for how good these are as an actual thing to buy.
Yeah. In the context of like a LRG, right?
Or just in general, whichever criteria you want to use.
Ooh.
I mean, I would buy a stick of pepperoni at any given point. So
right, you would.
So speaking of which, the pepperoni stick, it went for $5. That feels low.
It feels low considering it's a group, it's a group of 8, right? And it can feed the whole team, so they got a really good deal on that. And perhaps I missed it. Correct me if I'm wrong. They didn't have to cook it, right?
I don't think so. That's not normally how pepperoni works.
I would hope it wouldn't be. But I've seen some where you have to cook.
Yeah.
You haven't seen that before?
We don't have heated pepperoni in Indiana.
Maybe that's just a Texas thing. I don't know. But all right, what was the next item?
So, well, out of 10, what would you give the pepperoni stick?
Oh, right. Sorry. Yeah, I think it's a good source of protein. I'd probably give that an 8 out of 10.
Yeah, probably like a 6 for me. Like,
ooh, even though you were the pepperoni truther.
Yeah, yes, that was my nickname in high school. The one thing with the pepperoni stick is I don't even know how you're supposed to divide this. Do you just like gnaw on it like hyenas, just on it? Or do you
I
try to
would.
slice it theoretically?
I love the description you just gave, because if they're not, you remember like in the older seasons, like Amazon and Fiji, where they had the stick of meat or the meat just hanging from a string, and they had their hands tied behind their back and just had to gnaw on it. You basically just, if they showed them eating that in the episode, we could have gotten that challenge, and the production team didn't even have to set it up. So
Exactly.
complete missed opportunity. Okay, so what was next? 8 out of 10, 6 out of 10. What was the next item?
Coke, a 2 liter of Coke, and that ended up going for 0.
So I do have a thought on this, but first I want to ask you. I know that you would go for this, right? I'm assuming.
Okay, so this is the thing. I don't care about food.
Right.
When you're out there, I only want something that's good to drink.
Right.
So this would be very tempting for me, and it's caffeine,
It is
which
caffeine.
is fantastic. So the fact that it went for 0, I feel like that's kind of low for this one.
Yeah.
Of all of these, this was actually one of the best ones, in my opinion.
Oh, absolutely. I don't know. I would rather. I myself probably wouldn't go for this. I'll be perfectly honest, because, like you said, I'm not one for food out there either, and I don't actually mind just drinking the water. But like you said, most people want some different kind of taste when they're drinking something out there. But I would imagine more times than not, the Tribamon is gonna want this Coke. So I'm surprised it didn't go for anything. I actually thought this was a pretty good item. I'm surprised it didn't go for anything. That was my big thought.
So peanut butter and crackers, this is fantastic. Probably the best of the auction.
Yes. Well, I will say I'll give the Coke a 7.
I'll give it a 7. Yeah, same.
So peanut butter and crackers. If you were going to have food,
Yeah,
this
this is it.
would be a great choice.
Yeah, it's filling. It tastes great. It will
Yep.
last. Everyone likes it.
There's a
And if
probably
someone
I would
doesn't
assume
like it,
enough
it's
to
a
go
good telltale
around.
sign of you should vote them off. So it's good at judging people's character inherently.
How much did it go for?
It went for $5. These people are very stingy with this money.
Because I wrote down how much they started with. The Bozzer tribe had $155, and the Malek tribe had 120. Like, I don't know if they think
$5. Holy cow!
like I don't know if they can take the money home afterwards, and they're like, hey, let's split this 8 ways, so at least we get some type of compensation from this weekend. But why aren't they willing to spend more? I don't even think I doubt it's real money.
So I think you couldn't buy peanut butter and crackers for $5 like in real life. This is
No,
lower on Survivor than it is in the real world.
it's especially like triggering the time that this episode came out in. As someone who's currently trying to buy Christmas presents, I would kill for prices this low.
Oh, I thought you were saying that you were trying to buy peanut butter and crackers for one of your loved ones here for the
I'm trying to buy
holiday
peanut
season.
butter and crackers. No, that I can see how you thought that though. No, I'm trying to save. I'm trying to not go broke. Try paying for Christmas presents. On top of that, I have to pay for normal amenities. So I would love it if it was this low, but no, I would give this a 9. Honestly,
Yeah, it's a 9. It's not overpowered, but it's really good.
right.
Shower kit for 3 people. This is interesting.
So right. So only 3 people can use it. That was the big kicker.
Yeah, and spoiler, this went also for 0.
Right.
Frankly, if you're needing to take a shower after like 3 hours, I mean,
I mean, I'm not gonna say there haven't been people I've played with who probably could have used a shower after 3 hours, but you should not waste money as a team buying this on the very first day. You should save your money to buy more peanut butter crackers potentially.
yes. So similarly, I'm gonna give that a 1, probably.
Yeah, I'm gonna give it a 1.
Okay, baby carrots, and this is one I didn't get the price for, but it did get sold. Like people did pay for
Yes.
this, thankfully.
Yes, I didn't get the price either, but this was fine.
Yeah, like 5 out of 10. Like, yeah, whatever. I don't think
Well,
anyone's gonna be super hyped. Like, ooh, we got some baby carrots in the can. Huge boost in morale.
Well, you have to. If anybody's like, if anybody doesn't want the pepperoni stick, you have the baby carrots as an alternative, and it's healthy and it's not something you got to cook. So yeah, 5 out of 10.
Yeah. Secret advantage, which turned out to be
Okay,
really
obviously this
useful
played a part.
because it single-handedly caused the Basra tribe to win immunity, as we're told.
Yes, and who was the woman who said the Basra tribe can have it?
It was. I got it right here.
I think I know who it is, but
It was Tara. It was Tara.
Oh, even more. Wow, even more plays a part into the end of the episode. Okay.
Yes.
So just this was interesting from a production standpoint. What do you think about throwing in a secret advantage? Well, that one, you don't tell the players what it's for, and two, it actually has a direct correlation into the first immunity challenge. What did you think about that?
I mean, I think it's a good idea.
Right.
It'll always. I mean, it will get bid on, which puts it above some of these other items. As we know, these contestants, they do not want to spend money.
No.
So the fact that this went for 65 rather than like the negative numbers these others were reaching,
you're right. It will get
speaks
bid on.
well.
It will get bid on in an auction where theoretically you want the players to bid on stuff, and I like that they didn't specify is it an individual advantage, is it a team advantage, that type of thing, because I think that's where the source of drama comes from. Do you be selfish and suggest we have to buy this because you think it's an individual advantage, or do you do you try and act good for the team and say we need this as a team? And obviously the Basra tribe definitely benefited from this. So yeah, I give this a 9. This was a good idea.
It's Basra, not Bosna.
I didn't say Bosna.
Parker, it's in Iraq province. Come on.
I didn't say Bosna. I probably did. Honestly, I keep coming back to I keep coming back to that article you read out loud. You're telling me that this was not the inspiration for the tribe names. That's what you're telling me.
No, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. So, but let's actually get into this as an advantage.
Right.
So it's an instruction kit on how to make fire.
Yes.
In your opinion, was this a factor that changed the outcome of the challenge?
Well, I think it did. It was funny because we hear, I believe, Steve talk about, he volunteered because, he was a pyro as a kid, and he's good with fire. And so maybe they didn't need it at all, but then he talked about, he kind of got nervous, and the other in the tribe was getting a little nervous for him that they might blow it, but it worked out in the end. So I think the advantage absolutely played a part, and especially for people who don't, know how to make fire. So I like the advantage. Is it overpowered though?
No, it's not overpowered.
I knew you were going to say that. I just wanted to see your reaction.
Not at all. The confessionals after the challenge, I'm not even exaggerating, were one of my favorite parts of these 2 episodes here. Because it's one of the rare points in which the winning tribe is having arguments on the challenge, despite the fact that they won. They're like, you get Steve's confessional, like, oh man, I know fires left and right. This challenge is right up our alley. We're guaranteed to win this. And then half the tribe just goes in confessionals like, yeah, Steve totally blew it on the fire. We did win though, but Steve was horrible at the fire.
Horrible. I knew you were not. I don't think it's overpowered. Just to be clear, I wanted to see what you would say about it. I knew you would say no, and I got the reaction I wanted. So thank you very much. No, it was it was interesting, like you said. Yeah, that clearly it did play a part. And despite winning the challenge, the tribe wasn't all that satisfied with their performance. You know, how rare do you see a tribe that wins and then will go on to win the challenge in the second episode, and they're still not happy with how the tribe performed? How rare does that happen?
They needed to win by more.
They're already playing from ahead, and they want seconds and thirds.
They don't just want to win; they want to obliterate the other team. Which, according to Jason at Tribal Council, he was saying, "Yeah, you guys were not close. The other tribe's fire was way hotter than yours was." He said it was like a lighter, and theirs was like a blazing inferno. Like, it wasn't close at all. Meanwhile, Green is still like, "Oh man, we sucked in that challenge. I hate that Steve."
And to be fair, and I was gonna say one of my favorite confessionals of the episode. You talk about Green. Maybe they just want to obliterate any like spirit Purple has. It doesn't help when you have Nick on Purple, who purposely says, "Yeah, I want to vote off all these people."
Oh, I loved. We'll get. Hopefully, we'll get into this more. There were a lot of really good opening confessionals from these people. Nick's was fantastic.
Yes.
Just going on to confessional. I want to vote out my whole tribe, be the last one standing. Like, being a board game designer, that's a cool profession.
Yep.
On top of that, Nick also, and I mean this as a compliment, I hope it doesn't sound bad, he looks like a James Bond villain. So he already has that kind of villain persona going for him. Like a good-looking James Bond villain, not like with an eye patch or something. Although that'd be cool.
What do you got against eye patches?
Nothing.
Nothing. Okay. I thought we just I thought we just entered a part of your psyche there. So yeah, I've happened to play a game with Nick before, and I was glad that the confessional showed the type of character Nick is, because Nick, and I mean this in a good way as well, I hope it's not offensive, Nick is so classic mustache twirling bad guy, and it's hilarious. Like, the game Nick and I played together, he got farther than me, and he would just do things just for the heck of it. So Nick was completely on point here, and he has a really good mind for strategy. Like you said, being a board game designer, you have to look at all these details and all these extra rules. So Nick has a mind for the game, which is why he's a dangerous player. But you're right, he had a great opening confessional. Was there any other opening confessionals that stood out to you before we get back to the reward challenge?
So I was curious. You said you played a live game with Nick. Was that live game Battleship by chance?
I will say it was the mole, and there was no voting people out. Just as Battleship, there was no fire making, there was no beating each other up. So take that for what it's worth.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
We didn't get to beer yet.
I would love to get to
funny. I love just, here's 3 things of beer. Come over.
First of all, this brought me back to like old school CBS Survivor, where the rewards were terrible, and they would get like a mini stock of Coke that was warm and wasn't refrigerated. But and then in the original Borneo, where the original reward was in one challenge was like just one bottle of beer, and these people just get a whole bunch, and they've been this is day 1. I loved it.
Again, that was the other item that I couldn't get the price for, which is a real shame.
Which tribe got it again?
I'm not sure which tribe got it. That's
I think it was Malik. I think maybe it was.
Look at you getting the tribe names.
What, we're only
character progression.
We're not even 25 minutes in, and I'm starting to get them, people.
Brings a tear to the eye.
It brings a tear to the eye. Yes. What would you give the beer as an item?
I don't drink, so that slightly alters my vote here. Right. But with that being said, 10.
So I hate you. So yeah, I don't drink either, so I obviously wouldn't get any use out of this if I was in the game. But not only would it just be hopefully funny, yet you could get more of these people's personalities on the tribe. If I'm playing the game, I can get to know them a little bit more. Maybe people will relax a little bit more. Maybe they'll uh, indulge all of their alliances and secrets to me immediately by drinking too much. There's clearly plenty of beer to go around that they just bought. So I would hope that I could just get a lot of information out of these people. So yeah, it's a 9.
Was this what they were saving up for? They didn't want to spend any money just in case alcohol came into the mixture here.
I mean, would it surprise you if like one person was like, I want this, this is an event, this is a weekend of fun, I want this for myself? Would that really surprise you?
Not at all. And
Yeah,
just to be clear, as much as we're
there was
making fun of the beer, this is a fantastic idea from production. Like,
Oh,
I would be
absolutely.
fine with an auction of just different brands of beer as every single item.
This is a great addition, again, like you said, because somebody is going to bid on it. These people are stingy when they don't buy the Coke, but they're not too stingy for the alcohol. I think Jason makes a comment where he's like, he's going to drink the Coke later. He's got some rum for it. Where's the rum? Put that up. They'll clearly buy it.
Oh, we'll get into if we can get into this now. The luxury items here, some of them are a bit wonky. Like, was
I would love
rum
to get
his
them.
luxury item?
What was that?
Did someone bring rum as a luxury item? Because
If they did, I missed it. But
because two different people brought giant chairs as their luxury item. I loved it in the first part of the episode. You just see Jillian carrying this gigantic chair into camp.
I noticed that, and I was like, man, production lets them bring chairs. They auction off beer. Like, this is, where can I play this game? Honestly,
yeah, this seems fantastic.
Like, I would love to know what they didn't allow them to bring as a luxury item. If they're allowing rum and chairs, like, was hammocks an option? Have a hammock outside or inside the cabin. Was that off limits? Could someone have brought that? Like, could someone have brought real life money and paid the other contestants not to vote them off as a luxury item? I want to know what wasn't, what they weren't allowed to bring, honestly.
No kidding.
So what was anything else in the reward auction?
So we had we'll just get through these last two quickly.
Sure.
We had the giant fan, which is fantastic. That went for 20.
10.
Yeah, 10. That is fantastic.
It gets hot out there, I'm sure. Yes.
And the ring toss, which I don't think anyone bought. I could be wrong.
No, I don't think anyone did. Which I would give a 2, because that's an item production wants them to waste money on, when obviously, like, the games the players make between them will be not as interesting, but they don't need the ring toss, so I'll give that a 2.
So Jason commented and confirmed they did not allow rum. Disappointing, I know.
Very disappointing. I don't know that I didn't catch that in the episode, but when you said you thought that someone brought it in, I was like, wow, that'd be a good luxury item.
No kidding.
Jason, next season, man, come on.
Okay. So do you want to get into the first challenge in that case?
Yeah. I was gonna ask, did you have anything that you want to bring up before the immunity? I just had one note where I was gonna say, the fact that they have to do a nighttime challenge and then go to their cabin in the middle of the dark kind of gave me Cabin in the Woods vibes. Nighttime challenges are scary enough. Then I have to go walk in the dark back to my cabin. But it seemed like everyone made it out okay, even though the next morning Nick refused to take the puff off of his face for some reason.
There was it was funny watching the first challenge, the immunity challenge, because you just see these gigantic floodlights. They probably weren't floodlights, but they're just gigantic, like, beams of light going around. And It brings back all these memories, because whether you're on production or you're playing, when there's nighttime challenges, you almost feel like you're in a different dimension.
Oh
Like
yeah.
you're like half awake. You're in this super weird environment. You're questioning your life decisions that got to this point. And
Exactly.
there's just lights flooding around you every direction.
And there's several too, so they, plenty to see. Props to production. No, in all seriousness, for making sure that the players, wouldn't get hurt and could see during these nighttime challenges, because that would be a fear that I think most production of most of these games, most productive teams of these games would have when they do a nighttime challenge, is just, fear of someone getting injured. But just for the people at home who maybe didn't watch the challenge, basically there's 8 members on each team. There's 3 groups of 2, one at a time. One of the groups has to go get a bag that contains fire making materials, brings it back. Next group go, bring it back. Then the other 2 remaining members have to make the fire. First try to burn through the rope wins. So I definitely know the answer to this for you, but let's ask it anyway. What role would you do in this challenge? Are you going to be one of the pairs, or are you going to make the fire?
Um, so the role was to either get the materials or make the fire.
Yeah, those
So
are the
they,
only 2. Are you going to be one of the people that, that are linked up to get the materials, or are you going to make the fire?
well, this is the thing, because we saw that the Green Tribe wins. And
Yes.
even then, they're like, yeah, the Firemaker Steve, he messed it up for us. There's no advantage to going with the fire position. Because
No.
even if you like kill it, you nail it for your tribe. It's
Yep.
not like that's going to be useful in other challenges.
Well, exactly. It's just, I'm amazed, and I know somebody has to do it. I know that. I
Yeah.
know somebody has to do it. Obviously, that's why production picks these challenges, to make someone or 2 people in this case be in the hero role. But I'm amazed at how many times people will still volunteer for this role, knowing that it will more than likely put a target on your back. And like you said, even advantage and all, winning, annihilating the other team, according to Jason, they're still not happy with Steve's performance. So it's just, no, I would not volunteer to do the fire, even with an advantage. Absolutely not.
You mentioned it offhandedly, but I was actually impressed by how well production was able to light this challenge. Because
Absolutely.
you just look around them, it's pitch black. There's no light anywhere here.
Yep.
So I can only imagine the amount of like phone lights and all of that was going into this.
Oh, they did a great job keeping it safe, because from what it looks like a very gravelly like ground where the campsites are and where the challenge was taking place. Someone could, it's one-legged race practically. The duos are, their legs are tied together. Very easily someone could trip. So well done on production for making sure everything was lit to keep it safe. And one other shout out to production was, I noted that when the camera panned to the Green Tribe actually winning the challenge, great shot of the fire as soon as it broke through the rope. That was great.
Yeah. Yeah, that did look good.
That looked very good. But with that, Bowser wins the first immunity challenge, sending Malik to Tribal Council.
Yes. And I'm just going to say it. I love the Malik tribe. We haven't seen much of Basra in comparison, but this Malik tribe is fantastic.
I love it.
I love the people who are still there. I love the people who have been voted out, maybe especially here. They're just so good. And the tribe is so weird. The alliances don't really make that much sense. But they're kind of what you want to see anyway, so it works out.
Well, I loved, one of my favorite moments, speaking of, is how, just weird this tribe is. I love the moment they included of Kirk. Kirk's giving a confessional where he's talking about, Kirk's talking about, he knows he's going to probably get votes. He knows the hit is on him. And most people in that instance are going to be terrified, going to be nervous, plotting through in the confessional how to save themselves. Kurt stops mid-confessional to go use the porta potty. Like,
okay, it's time we brought up just Kurt as a personality on here. This man is a godsend. Like, holy cow. Every confessional he has is amazing. The first thing he says is, "I feel like I'm at a disadvantage because I'm old," while he's wearing this giant Columbo shirt. And it's intercut with other confessionals. You'll get like, "Yeah, I'm really excited to play the game." Cut back to Kurt. "Man, my feet hurt." More confessionals. "Oh, my back hurts." Then he goes
That
to the
was
porta potty.
what I thought that was probably a deliberate choice on the production team or the
Oh,
the editors
absolutely.
part, because there's this Kurt is going to get targeted at the first tribal, and they talk about other players talk about maybe he's a weak link, and throughout the episode, especially at random points, which makes it even funnier, which is how you do exposition, you add some entertainment to it. Like you said, just at the most random intervals, they include Kurt confessionals when it's not even relevant to the story. Like
Not at
you
all.
men-
That's what makes
you
it
men-
better.
you mentioned it, him talking about I'm old, so I got to turn my back. That's sandwiched in between Nick going through his whole strategy, Kurt, and then Chad going, "Hey everybody!" So it was just great. It didn't need to be there, but it did need to be there in another way. I absolutely loved it.
I also might be jumping ahead here a little bit, but Kurt's
Sure.
first voting confessional is amazing too. And it's always hard to tell with him because he has a very good dry sense of humor. But he
Yes.
says, "I have a feeling I'll either get 3, 4, 5, 6, or 7 votes."
I love
And he ends
the
up
fact
not
he didn't
getting
even
any of those numbers.
He didn't even include 1 or 2, but
No.
which makes the joke even funnier to me. Like he only specific numbers are included. I'm glad you pointed that out. That was a really good one. But so we one thing that I thought was interesting was we cut to Purple pre-tribal talking about, which names have been thrown out. And specifically Chad talks about the 3 names brought up are Taylor, Tara, and Kurt. Now, Taylor doesn't end up actually getting any votes. Taylor ends up being okay. But what I thought was interesting was Chad brought up the point of Taylor was my person at the meet and greet that I connected with and I want to stick with. Now, Nathan, you just from our experience, and then maybe anyone else watching who's played games before, how often do those first like bonds made at the meet and greet in these games really play into allegiances?
I think they make a huge impact for everyone except for Brett.
Right. It did not matter for Brett.
What's so weird about that whole talk with Taylor is maybe I missed it, but do we ever get a reason for why anyone's targeting her?
No, from what I understand, and correct me if I'm wrong, anybody who's watching, or maybe Tara's the one who threw out Taylor's name. I don't think there was an actual reason why. I think the reason is it's an offhand remark from Nick or Chad that Tara knew her name was out there, so she threw out both Taylor and Kurt's names just to get the target off her back. Kurt's is obviously the one that sticks more than Taylor's, so her name being thrown doesn't really matter. But like you said, as far as just what we're being shown, we don't actually get much of a reason for why Taylor needs to go home first. But honestly, isn't that most first boots? They don't really do much wrong anyway, and they just get sent home anyway. So that's not surprising to me, but thankfully for Taylor, she does get to stay. And the other point I just wanted to bring up about Chad's confessional, going off of it, was how much do you want to try and keep your ally at the first vote? If you're Chad, he's not going anywhere. He's fine. People like him. But Taylor, her name is on the chopping block. So how much work do you generally need to put in to keep your number one if your number one's name is on the chopping block at that first vote? Because you don't want to go too much, obviously, because then people are sketched out by you. But if you really want to keep your number one, you got to put in some work. What do you think about that?
It's very situational.
Of course.
I mean, number one is different depending on like if you know or are personal friends with this person outside the thing versus I saw them at the car and they had a good demeanor to them. I like,
Right.
In this case, I don't think it was really that big of an issue because again, the other two, the episode goes into extreme detail as to why these two will be targeted. Meanwhile, Taylor's just kind of thrown out there as a random option.
Right. So you're right, and like I said again, or like you said, it is situational. But there is some. A lot of people I've seen have blown up their games trying to protect their number one or their no, someone they feel really good about when really they didn't need to. Which is something that Nick found out very soon. We'll get into that in a sec. But was there anything else you wanted to talk about before the actual tribal council and the vote?
Okay, so they say that Brett and Alyssa are kind of a pair,
Hmm.
and with them is Chad, Kurt, and Taylor.
Yeah, that's the
Um,
five.
I love this five. It makes no sense. I don't understand why this is the five that's dominating here. But we're
I
lucky that
love
this
that.
is the five, so I'm not
Yeah,
complaining.
no, it's a good five. But like you said, this is just of all the combinations of people that could have worked together on this tribe. I would not have picked this majority. Definitely not. Well, I love that the first episode. Yeah, they keep Kurt, but they never actually establish what people like about him or if anybody wants to work with him. And yet all of a sudden now he's in the core. He's in the core. The only pairing that makes sense in this majority is, I want to say, Chad and Taylor from what we saw. But yeah, but no, Nick just mentions Brett and Alyssa are this power couple, and I'm here for it. I like it. I like Brett and Alyssa. It's just funny to me that out of that these are the people that are dominating, which makes Purple Tribe even more fun because they're so unpredictable.
If I were to theorize what was happening here, I think the people on the outside weren't aware. You get hints of it in the episode that people say like, "Oh, we're a little afraid of Kurt because he has connections."
Mhm.
I don't know if they're referring to the other team, but I get the sense
Maybe.
that Kurt just felt comfortable pretty quickly in this team, and when you're
Yeah.
really comfortable, you're able to, let loose a little more. And
Sure.
people who weren't aware more so of what was going on, they saw that as, oh, we can vote him off when that wasn't really the case.
Right. So we get to tribal, and despite what Kirk thinks is going to happen, he does not get three, four, five votes.
5, 6, or
Six,
7
seven.
votes.
He gets one from Tara, and unfortunately, Tara is the first person voted off. Sad to see Tara go. I think you could tell by her confessional she had a lot of fight. She really wanted to be there. Not that anyone else did it, but I was sad to see her go.
Oh, I was super bummed to see Tara go. She was fantastic.
Yeah,
Like when I
absolutely.
say this purple team is great, like I'm not kidding. Tara was great. I loved her first confessional when she said she got here because she saw a Facebook ad and thought it was a scam.
And honestly, that sums up this community so well because most people, for the first time when they enter it and don't know anything about or don't know someone on production, they probably do think it's a scam. Honestly,
Yeah, like we're at a gas station in Tennessee explaining this to people, and they're like, "Oh no, that's crazy."
oh, that's crazy. Is that a cult?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. To this day, I don't know how my parents were like, "Yeah, 16-year-old Nathan, go with this random guy we've never met for a week."
16-year-old, I question. 60-year-old Parker questions his parents letting him do that as well.
Yeah, I
To the
mean, I'm
same guy in
glad,
Tennessee.
but I'm
Oh, I'm
just
perfectly happy about it. I loved it, but I don't know how it happened, and I'm not going to question it now. So,
um.
anything else from this first episode before we jump to the second one?
So they said that part of the reason they targeted Tara, they said that she was kind of abrasive. She wouldn't let people get a word in. But
Right.
one thing that was brought up is, oh, she punted the advantage. Because the
Mm,
plan for Malik was to have Basra spend pretty much all their money and
right.
just bluff that they had more money than they actually had. But Tara just outright announced, yeah, we're not going to spend any more money. So that kind of
Mhm.
ruined their plan.
Yeah.
Personally, I don't think that's actually the reason. I think that's kind of an excuse.
I
I
think,
don't
honest,
think it
yeah.
was that big of a deal objectively here.
No. Again, that's the type of, and I'm not, and the other players, obviously you need to pitch it so you don't go home or your allies don't go home. You need to pin it on somebody for any reason. But like I said, like you just said, I don't really think that was as big of a deal at the end of the day. Don't get me wrong. If I'm there in the moment, I'm probably really annoyed that she did that, but it's not really like she did this horrible thing, especially considering that the other tribe is like right there. There are confessionals. I think Chad has one where he's talking about he wants to whisper because the other tribe is right there. So if the other tribe is very close, the two cabins are very close anyway, there's a very high likelihood that um, Bowser was going to figure out that that was Malik's plan anyway. So I don't really think that was just the end all be all for Tara's game. I think it was probably just rubbing people the wrong way, unfortunately.
Yeah, and again, Tara, fantastic casting. Like,
Yes.
bring Tara back. She was
Do it.
fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely.
I thought she was a fun personality. This is one of these people I'm talking about. You don't get very many Taras on television.
No.
This is the kind of thing I like watching these web-based shows for.
Yeah,
Because a lot of
and I
these
really,
personalities are just very unique.
yeah, and I always like you said, I always like people who are playing one of these type of games on these web shows for the first time, and they're really learning as they go. There's an intriguing element to that where it's like we're watching them learn. We're following along on their journey. Not that we're not following along in anyone else's journey, but we're seeing this person try this for the first time. So it's a very fun journey to follow. So
Is it Battleship time?
it is. I think it might be Battleship time, but so
This actually
first,
seemed
like
like
you
a
said,
fun challenge. Like
yes,
it. This is one of the rare challenges where I'm watching it. Don't think, oh, that seems hellish to participate in. This actually seems like it would be a fun game to play, like at a like family reunion or something. In a
uh,
good way. I don't mean that as
yeah,
like a diss of like,
no,
oh,
no,
it's a
no,
carnival game. Like, no, it's a good challenge.
no. It's genuinely a good challenge, and you and I have talked about this before. We helped with Surviving Reelfoot this last season. We had a challenge, not the exact same form of Battleship, but very similar. Very much luck, a lot of luck based involved in it, and some of the viewers weren't really feeling it. Some of the viewers really liked it. Kind of a, you know, not controversy. Just a lot of different opinions on the challenge. I was one of the ones who liked it. I know you were one of the ones who liked it. So this brought me back to that. I imagine maybe not all the viewers liked it, but I enjoy this type of challenge. A challenge like this, again, isn't like it doesn't suit anyone in particular skill sets. You don't have to be you don't have to be a bodybuilder. You don't have to run a triathlon on every weekend. It's just fun, and no real tribe has no either tribe doesn't have any real advantage. So I really enjoyed following along with it. And the way they edited it, again, another shout out to the editing team. The way they edited it with the graphic of the chart at the top of the screen, made it much easier to follow. So I really do appreciate that detail.
Yeah, that was a good addition to that. One I really liked the mix of strategy with kind of aim, where you
Mhm.
still had to throw the bags in order to get it right.
Yeah.
Because that way, it's not like that flag challenge in Thailand where they're just like huddled over, like, oh, should we grab 2 flags or 3 flags for this round?
Yeah.
There's more to it than that.
Did you think if you're in this challenge in particular, is there any real is there any not real, is there any strategy that you can pitch to the team like, hey, we should do this, or is it more so just going with your gut?
Well, clearly, don't pitch any strategy or they'll vote you off,
Yeah.
as we learned.
Don't do that, especially if the strategy doesn't work, I guess. So maybe you're right. Maybe the strategy is don't pitch a strategy. Just go with it. Maybe that's what
I
you need to do.
maybe I'm short-sighted here, but I guess there are better ways to put your ship than others that give you more likelihoods and that kind of thing. I
Mhm.
believe Nick when he said that they had a well set up board here. But the problem is that I mean, it's still Battleship.
Right.
It's not like a guaranteed thing. You're not playing chess or
No.
anything. So there's still a lot of guessing and luck involved with this.
You have to assume. The problem is that if the problem is you're assuming that the other team is going to play optimally, at their best, they're going to make the best possible moves for their ships. but not every team is going to do that. For all Nick knew, they could have placed their tribes like one row underneath each other to try and fake out the other tribe. Like, oh, there's no way their tribe is ever going to do that. So let's try and trick them. For all we know, they could have done that. So really, there's no real like right or wrong to how you place the battleships. It's just you just have to kind of, I guess, not do what Nick did apparently, because they didn't really like it. I'm with you though. I didn't think Nick did anything that inherently wrong. I guess the thing is, should he have spoken up at all, considering he's already on the bottom? Could that have played a part in it? The fact, like, wow, you're already on the bottom and you blew it for us. Could that have played any part in it?
Again, I think it's kind of just an excuse. Because it's one of those things where it's a no-win situation here. I mean, if
Yep.
Nick had stepped back and his tribe had lost, then we would be saying like, "Oh, Nick, you should have stepped up. You're a board
Right.
game designer. You should have known to do this. You were on the mole with Parker." Uh, um,
Right.
so
It's no
and
win.
plus I don't feel like if he was in a really great position, his game would have been blown up by not winning Battleship single-handedly for his team.
You would think so, but if there's one thing I've learned about these contestants, is they constantly surprise. They're very
Yeah,
stingy
yeah.
with money, as we've seen. They're very particular about their battleship strategies, and they're very particular about Steve winning the challenge with an advantage. He put one too many sticks on it or something, because clearly
Yeah.
these people are not happy with the way these challenge strategies are going. That's a consistent theme we've seen. And it's funny for the viewer, but it's also head scratching in a way.
It's like the Pete Morgan strategy of whenever someone does anything in a challenge, just be like,
Blame them.
that didn't work out. I hate to say it, but we all know it's true. We got to vote him out now.
I think, I think, like you said, it's happened at least 4 times off the top of
Yeah,
my head, and we've seen it happen firsthand on a tribe with Pete Morgan.
yeah,
So it's
yeah.
very likely to happen. So again, anything else on the battleship challenge or anything that happened during it?
Of the challenges in these two episodes, I thought this was clearly the best. Wouldn't you agree?
Oh, I do. Honestly, I liked it. I liked that everybody had a fair shot. I liked, again, that no tribe had a clear advantage over the other. And like you said, it kind of gives the vibe of this is something I could do back home, which, we always, Jeff Probst himself always talks about, this challenge you can do at home for fun or at a, maybe a party with friends. And this kind of gave that vibe. So it was a lot of fun.
One that's actually something like that live games like this have like an advantage
Mhm.
is again with the way they're cast, they cast more everyday people who aren't
Yep.
models or bartenders in LA. Like more
Yep.
people you feel like you could relate to. And on top of that, a lot of these challenges have to be more small scale. And
Hmm.
when you have people that you relate to more and competitions that you relate to more, I do think it helps you engage with it.
Agreed. And it also just shows it's a different kind of creativity for sure. But when you do have a smaller budget compared to something like CBS, you do have to be a little bit more creative with what kind of challenges you use. And so far, I've really enjoyed the creativity we've seen in these first 2 episodes. Grant, not that CBS Survivor doesn't have creativity, but when every pre-merge challenge is obstacle course puzzle, and every individual challenges stand there and hold this, it's looking kind of bad with the web show edition of Survivor is having more creativity.
I'm not saying CBS has no creativity, just to be clear. I'm
I
just
didn't say
saying
that
they
either.
have it 1% of the time. I'm sure we'll eventually get a challenge that isn't stand in one place for a long time.
Blasphemy.
I know, crazy thought there.
You'd have to bump up to what, 2%, 3% on the creativity scale
Yeah,
for that one.
yeah, exactly.
I don't know if that's in the budget, the multi-million-dollar budget. But regardless, once again, the Oh, I forgot their name again. Which tribe wins?
Basra.
Basra, yes. The Basra
It
tribe
sounds like
wins.
a Mario villain.
Basra. Hey, Ty, maybe that was. Hey, Jason described the reward auction challenges. You ever seen Mario Party before?
Oh,
So it might not be Iraq provinces that he's basing the tribe names off of, but maybe it's Mario Party.
that might be
Theory.
it.
I want to see more episodes to confirm this theory I have. But once again, Malik is going back to tribal council, and it's not looking good for Nick.
No. And that's kind of a shame because, again, Nick was really good these few episodes. I missed it when we were talking about the first tribal council, but there was a really funny moment when they're showing them walk into tribal council, and everyone else is like trying to be as natural as possible as they walk by the camera. Meanwhile, Nick is doing like
This is why I love Nick, and I'm sad he's gone already. Obviously, this is a great tribe here, and I'm gonna be sad when most of these people go. But like, Nick just brings it. He just knows. He just knows like what to bring on screen, and it's just fun to watch. You can't trust him at all if you're out there, so I'd not blame them for voting him out. But he's such good TV; it's a loss for the viewers.
Well, why do you think that they voted him off here?
I mean, we covered it. He didn't have the right battleship strategy. Nick, you're a board game designer. You should ace this, and we still lost. But in all seriousness, like you said, it's one of those things. We go back to how hard should Chad fight for Taylor at the first vote. Nick either didn't fight hard enough for Tara, or he fought too hard for Tara. We don't really get a clear indication of either, but he talks about that was a person he really wanted to work with. He saw himself in the end with Tara, and it just didn't work out. So to lose your your ally at the first vote in a tribe of 8, and then go back with 7, that's really tough. So it may have been just the 5 didn't really want to think too hard on the vote. Not make it too crazy. Let's just continue picking off the outsiders, and Nick just wasn't gelling as well as maybe Jillian was, but that's what I would think. I don't think it was anything too crazy other than they just didn't vibe as well, or they didn't trust Nick as much. What do you think?
It's also tough because thinking of this from an actual timeline perspective, they were probably like, what, 2 hours away from the previous vote?
Right. And that's something...
I'll give it a benefit of the doubt. Maybe it was like 4 hours, like at the absolute most.
Right.
But there's not a ton you could do in that amount of time.
Right. And that's something that I don't know that sometimes I think even me included, viewers at home watching these web shows forget, is that these players don't have nearly as much time as the CBS show, or even from what we remember. These episodes come out once a week. Sometimes us as viewers forget that they don't have a lot of time, when they actually played the game. It was 3 days, 4 days at most, I want to say. And, like you said, it's just tough when you don't have a lot of time. Nick, I'm sure, was probably pitching his butt off to try and stay, but there's just, if you're the majority, you have something good, why risk it, when you don't have a lot of time to try and plan a bigger move, so to speak, in the first place. So that's what I think it was. I think it was just unfortunate situation all around for Nick.
So who is not in the majority here? So Taylor's in the majority.
Jillian.
So Jillian and Nick were the two that are not in the majority.
Correct. Now, we don't really get a reason why Jillian's not in the majority. Again, we didn't. Maybe there's some reason, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. I didn't catch one, but we did. We heard a little bit about maybe why Nick's not in it. He's kind of close to Tara. Tara went home. Makes sense that now Nick is a little isolated. I'm not quite sure why Jillian wasn't in the fold, though.
I think it was because Jillian is a Scorpio. That was something that she told us in her first confessional.
That was another.
As we all know,
one.
Scorpios don't get voted out second. It's a rule.
No, it's a rule. That was another really great opening confessional. She just brings up, she's like, I'm a Scorpio. Not that matters. It was just a really funny one. I enjoy that. And
did they not vote out Jillian because of her giant chair? Do you think that was part of the decision making?
That, and I was going to bring up Jillian's shirt is too good to send her home second. Her shirt
Yeah.
says, "I'll bring the bad decisions." Like this, that alone, I want to work with Jillian. So the fact they're not working with Jillian, I don't know if I would fit in on this tribe because I would work with Jillian just for that.
I totally did not catch that shirt.
I made sure to write that down.
I was too focused on Kurt's Columbo shirt to really take notice. So I bring the bad decisions. Is that a phrase?
I'll bring the bad decisions. Yeah, I've heard statements similar to that. Maybe not that exact one. I don't know if it's a reference to something. I assume it's just like, I make bad decisions. I'm fun to be around. That's what I assume it was, or that's what it's referring to. But I just loved it. It was a good shirt. Anytime you bring a joke shirt on one of these shows, you either run the risk of the joke being hilarious and people like you off the bat, or the joke not landing and people blowing you up for that. So clearly, Jillian's shirt got her through these first 2 votes, and her giant chair.
Yes. So would not being included in the majority alliance, would that count as a bad decision? So she lived up to her shirt yet?
Well, did she make that decision? In the implication is she actively chose not to be in the big decision, and I got this picture in my mind of Jillian's like, "No, I'm good, guys. I won't be your 6. Let me go chill in my chair for a little bit."
And they all just like look over to the side like, "Oh, dang. She sure does live up to that shirt. Gotta vote out Nick."
She lives up to it. Man, she has brought nothing but bad decisions, but Nick. No. So to answer your initial question, yes. Right now, currently, there's the majority of 5 of Chad, Taylor, Alyssa, Brett, and Kurt, with Jillian unfortunately on the outs. And again, we still haven't seen too much of the Basra tribe, and I assume we'll see more of them if they do lose. But right now, things seem pretty cut and dry on the Malik tribe, unfortunately, for Jillian.
So of this majority alliance, I actually feel really good about just about all of them. Because I think they all seem like pretty level-headed good players. And at this point, if they do swap, they're probably going to end up in a minority situation.
Right.
But especially in the case of like Chad and Taylor, I feel like these people could just kind of integrate themselves well here. Couldn't you kind of see that?
Oh yeah, I could see that, and Brett and Alyssa definitely seem like very sociable people. Their tight duo has been, at least that's the perception. And Kurt, like going back to your earlier point, if Kurt has connections on the other team and that's the connections they're referring to, I would assume in a swap situation, then Kurt would be okay. But I would imagine most, if not all, these people in the majority alliance could survive a swap situation and at the very least make merge.
Because there are situations where you're in the majority on one tribe, but you're just never going to do well with the other team. And I just don't think this is really a situation where that's the case.
Right.
And I mean, like if Boston Rob gets swapped the wrong way, like the other team isn't going to embrace him normally.
No.
Whereas these people, I feel, are more, I don't know how to say it, but like agreeable, I guess you would say.
Not aggressive.
Yeah.
Does it make the tribe sit around camp in the playpen? The buddy system?
Quite the opposite. They stay up all night. They hang out.
Yeah. And again, one part of this that we haven't seen, that hasn't played a part, but I'm sure will play a part depending on how long these people make it, is that Jared said on the other team that he has or at least he knows Alyssa. So I'm curious to see if that means Alyssa will have the most numbers in the game in a swap or merge position. Again, we don't have to talk about that too much now, but like you said, I would assume that that's going to be cause for some friction within the Green tribe, even if they're super solid now. But, as we've seen before, the tribes that win a lot in the beginning and don't lose too often, they're not very united. So we'll just have to see what happens there.
Jared knows the other tribe's names better than some of his own tribe.
I wrote that
He didn't
down.
remember Janet's name when he was giving his confessional.
That was one of my favorite moments. I'm glad you brought it up, and I forgot to bring it up. I love the fact they include that moment with Jared, because that is every live game, and it's not just one person ever. There's always multiple people who mess up on a lot of names throughout the first day. Even, Jared may not get names right for his entirety of his stay in this game, for all we know. But I love the inclusion because, that's not really a moment I think they would include in the CBS show. Maybe they would now. I don't know. But I feel like this again, is much more relatable in these web show versions, because that is something a normal person would do, mess up a name or forget a name. So it's a funny moment, but it also is endearing to us as viewers as we're watching these players.
If there's one thing we've established with this first recap, it's that Parker and I are not amazing with names. So it's very relatable to us specifically.
It is relatable, isn't it? I love it. And hopefully we will get better, or like Jared potentially will, we will never get better throughout the entirety of these recaps.
I feel like I have a general sense of most of these people's names by this point. Like, I think if you showed me pictures, I can name like 75% of the cast. And the rest of them, it'd just take me like one hint to get it.
I would probably struggle more on the Basra team, just because we haven't seen them as much. And that's nothing on them. It's just because we haven't seen them as much. I feel like I got the Malik tribe pretty much down by now. I feel like I can get half or even more than half if you just show me a picture without a name of the Basra team. But I'll get there for sure. And again, that's nothing on them. That's my horrible memory's fault.
Yeah.
So what just would you? So do you want to make predictions of just what we think is going to happen next, real quick?
So there's a little bit of a weird moment that was brought up. So Kurt says that right before he goes up to vote, Brett asks him, "Hey, do you have an idol?" Do you remember this?
No. Vaguely, but I now that you brought it up, I remember it. Kurt asks Brett.
No, it was the opposite. Brett asked.
Oh, Brett asked Kurt.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they didn't. The episode didn't really focus on that a lot. It was kind of just there.
So was the idol inside the Porta Potty is what I'm getting at.
Well, that's what I'm thinking. That's why he had to abandon the confessional. He knew it was in there, and he's like, guys, I'll give you the goods later. I'll show my idol in the confessional later, but I got to get it first.
Go like full total drama with the Porta Potty confessional. Yeah.
If we do not get one confessional in that Porta Potty this season, they keep their pants up, obviously, but I would love, as two guys who watched Total Drama when it first aired, that would make my day. And Kurt seems down for it, clearly.
Yeah.
Seems down for it.
I love that you specify with their pants on.
I don't want anyone to think that I'm insinuating something inappropriate happened. Because that's not what I'm about. You know how these people are. It's the internet, man. If there's one thing web shows are known for, it's family-friendly content.
Exactly.
Yeah, to your point. Yeah, so I guess that would insinuate maybe there isn't a lot of trust there between Brett and Kurt, because Kurt mentions before the first tribal even that he's been looking all over and he hasn't found it. So maybe the others have noticed. As we know from Brett, he doesn't even really like his majority alliance. He'd rather be with the other people. So maybe this is just his way of expressing his frustration with his tribe. They keep losing. All of his allies are on the other team. So maybe that was Brett's intention.
There are some people who just seem really well insulated. Mentioned earlier, Chad and Taylor seem really well insulated. Yep. Right now, pretty much everyone in the majority on Malik seems like they're in a good spot. But those two in particular, I think it's hard to conjure up that many situations where they're the main target.
Yeah.
One that really stuck out to me is whenever Billy's name is mentioned, everyone talks about just how great this guy is. Like, oh, I feel like I could work with Billy. Billy seems cool, that kind of thing.
Very
So I
well
think, yeah.
insulated. I keep going. Sorry, I was just getting my notes.
No. So the majority on green, according to Confessional, is Sarah, Amy, Chelsea, Jay, and Billy, with Jared as the target.
Yes.
This is interesting. So as with purple, I think it's more interesting to look at who is not in this alliance.
Yeah.
So Jared, obviously, Steve and Janet are not in this alliance.
Yes. Well,
Um,
and it's interesting because, like you said, Chelsea talked about for Chelsea's alliance. She wants to pull in Billy as a fourth and either Sarah or Steve as a fifth, but people aren't feeling Jared, like you said. So it's very interesting. What I'm getting from that is I think Billy's, like you said, probably in the best position. He's a swing vote. Everybody wants to work with him. So Billy's in a really good position. But
we didn't talk about her that much because it obviously didn't come to fruition this episode because they won both the challenges. But I feel like Chelsea's a really good personality, and she's going to
yes,
be a big player here, at least in the pre-merge.
Chelsea's a lot of fun. She talked about wanting to play a more aggressive game. She's trying to get her ducks in a row right away. She's on a winning team. Maybe it's going to come off too aggressive. I don't know. But Chelsea is a very fun personality to follow that I like so far. So,
do we know why they're planning on targeting Jared in particular?
I don't think we got it. A big reason, again, it may not have been important because they didn't lose, so it wasn't important to put in the episode. Maybe there's knowledge that Jared does know Alyssa and Chad. Jared mentioned he vaguely knows Chad. He knows Alyssa, so maybe there's fear that he has connections, kind of like, again, if they know that. I'm not sure if they do. Kind of like they said that Kurt has connections, so he's dangerous. So potentially that's why they're targeting Jared. But other than that, I don't think we've been given a concrete answer yet. You would think that they would want to target Janet, right? Because as far as I know, Janet isn't in any alliances, right?
No, it's like a Brant Steele of Janet aligned with nobody.
Aligned with nobody. It's much like a Brand Steel, we could easily come to the next episode and it's between Jared and somebody else going home, and then out of nowhere Janet goes home.
Yeah.
and nobody brought up her name on the Brand Steel. That's a good analogy. But I'm glad for Steve that he's still considered as potentially a number, considering the fact that he just did a terrible job in that challenge that he won for the team. So good for Steve. I'm glad that people are trusting him. It's just the weirdest thing. They won the challenge, like you said, but they needed to do better, clearly.
Yes.
Whereas Malik is over there just trying to win a challenge in general. It's kind of like you and me when we played in Aruba. It's like in the first try, we're just trying to win the challenges here, and I'm sure the other two, and I'm sure the Teal tribe is just losing their head off, wanting to vote somebody out already.
Exactly.
That's a reference only you and I will get. And so, okay, so just real quick, who is in the most trouble? We kind of talked about a little bit. We talked about who's really well positioned. Just right now, without knowing what's going to happen next episode, who is most likely to go home on each team?
I don't think purple is necessarily doomed here.
No, I don't think they are.
Because again, the first challenge is fire making, and that's a useful skill in general. But no, I doubt very many other challenges are going to be fire making.
Right.
And then they lost battleship. So this isn't really a thing where they're just wholly inept here and they could never win a challenge.
I don't think the tribes are too uneven given what we've seen so far.
But I mean, if Malik loses, I have to feel like Jillian's in trouble here.
Yeah, and unless you're Jillian, who knows that there's a little bit of sus on Kurt from, what was it? Brett is feeling a little sus on Kurt. I don't know if Jillian knows that. You hope she would, but if she doesn't know, then what is even her pitch to stay? Because, like I said, if she knew that, she could throw the vote on Kurt, maybe. But again, if she doesn't know that, then what is even her pitch? So I'd have to imagine things are not looking good for Jillian.
Well,
Obviously, Basra is a much more interesting case, considering we don't have clear battle lines drawn yet.
yeah, I there's because it's interesting on Basra because they have conversations within the alliances.
Mhm.
So, um, so there's clearly like a tight five allegedly,
Yeah.
but we also hear like, oh, Jared knows this person.
Mhm.
Chelsea talked with Amy and Jared, and that kind
Chelsea
of thing.
wants Billy and Sarah or Steve as a fifth, but like you said, there's targeting on Jared. So there's a lot that's going to happen if this team does go to tribal. There's a lot that they have to figure out. And speaking of, you brought up the conversations had in between the tribe. One thing I don't think I brought up, and it was probably my favorite part of the whole of both episodes actually, was the double confessional,
Yes, yes.
having two players in one confessional talking out. Oh, that was so good. I love that. I've never seen that before in one of these live reality games. I can't think of one. It took me back to what was it? Survivor Amazon, where Jen and Heidi are just dunking on Roger, in a double confessional. It was awesome. I think more LRGs should take this, honestly. It was great. It was so different. It was so fun. I loved it.
What on that same note, I gotta give a lot of credit to Jason as a host here
Yeah.
because the guy just has such a natural like charisma with these contestants. You
Hmm.
already feel like a real rapport with these people,
Yeah.
and he's able to ask direct questions without blowing up people's games.
Yeah.
He has good questions too. Uh, so it makes these tribal councils more interesting.
Yeah, and like we didn't talk too much about the tribals themselves and what was talked about, but Jason really did a good job. There's like you said, there's a lot of times where sometimes hosts either probably accidentally or maybe intentionally, hopefully not intentionally, they try to blow up players' games through their questions, and Jason didn't do that. He got good answers from the questions. They weren't like yes or no for the most part, open-ended questions. They were good questions, and you could tell the players enjoy being around him as a host. He just, like you said, has a natural charisma to him. I think Jason's doing a great job, and this isn't his first season, obviously, but this is the first one we're seeing on YouTube, and he deserves a lot of props. I'm glad you brought that up.
He's a real threat as a host because he's won twice. So if he just suddenly enters into the game, he might just steal this from all these contestants.
He may as well. He's going for that pepperoni stick. He wants to play
Yes,
the game that bad. Oh my gosh.
exactly.
So, anything else, Nathan, from either of the first two episodes?
Overall, I'm genuinely enjoying this season. Uh,
Absolutely.
I've had a good time with these two episodes.
Yeah, same here. I felt like we walked away getting to know a lot of the characters. I think everybody had a confessional. I can't think of anyone who hasn't had one yet, which is great. No purple edits so far. Um, I enjoyed the challenges. I've enjoyed the production aspect. It's a strong start, and I'm looking forward to continuing watching as well as recapping. So I'm really enjoying the season so far.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, with that being said, I want to say thank you to everybody for tuning in. Remember to like, subscribe, hashtag, all that other stuff to follow us. All the
.com
other
for
words.
us.
Yeah, all the other words to follow along with live reality games, so you can get more coverage like this. There'll be new episodes every week of Survivor Angelica, so make sure to continue to tune into those. And thank you, everybody, for watching again. And thank you, Nathan, for tuning in with me.
Oh, absolutely.
Take care,
All right.
everybody.
Take care.